Hi, everybody. It's Casual
Everybody.
Linda G and Andre, Astrology Alert.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. So you were talking about it. You're going to do a nice long video that's coming up for everybody.
Yeah, I just spent some time putting together the case on the woman on the case. Aileen Canon. I had done some videos on her last year, and it looked like things wouldn't work out for her. And so now I wanted to be really clear what's going to happen based on this year and next year, because this thing, I mean, it's pretty clear to me that Trump's strategy is to try to delay this so that there is no trial prior to the election. That's obviously what he's doing. And if she's going to achieve that, that's what she would try to do. And I would say that that is possible. That's a possibility. We have to keep our mind open to that, because that's what she'll try to do. And the only thing I can think of that would be a major, problem for her and for Trump. I heard today that there's a possibility. I don't know if you've heard this yourself, that they're looking that Jack Smith may charge the case from Bedminster as well, because he had records there as well, and then you get a different judge. So then
That sounds, I know he has something up his sleeve.
I know, and that would be lethal, because then it doesn't matter. You see, the charges are so serious that no matter what you get him on, wherever you get him on, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. And so there's a possibility of that, or what you'll see when I do the video, that in the final conclusion, it doesn't really matter, because there's so much there in her chart to stop her, to make it very hard for her to be as effective as she would want to be, like as a total Trumper, helping him out. And, there's also the possibility, by the way, it's possible that she goes in there and she's going to be scared to do something like last time, because they basically told her, look, you can't treat him differently than other people. That's what they said. That's why
Yeah.
we're kicking you off the case. You can't make up the story that Trump is special. He's not. That's not the law. So if she starts talking like that again, Smith will, appeal and
Yes.
probably have her kicked out. So,
Well, I would prefer her to be kicked out, because the other thing is he could be found guilty and she doesn't do anything. She throws it out and can throw it out.
she could. It
And
is
it can't be
possible.
resubmitted.
Yeah, it is possible. Right, right. I mean, all of that is possible. I think with the way her overall chart is, unlikely that she would even get that far, or let me put it this way. If something like that were to happen, which I think would be extremely unusual, there's going to be other stuff anyway. Like people are focusing on this one.
Oh,
There's more,
Fanny's got a
there's more coming.
fantastic.
Yeah, right, exactly. Not to mention that if it turns out that this shifts to Bedminster, she becomes irrelevant, because then
Right,
it doesn't matter.
exactly.
Yeah.
I
So
know, I know Jack's got something up his sleeve. Trust me. They're not just hoping that she'll be okay. They're deciding. I kept hearing Jack say psychically, give him more rope. Give them more rope.
oh well, yeah, that works really well with this guy. I mean, you give him like if you give him a foot, he turns it into like a yard immediately and hangs himself with it. I know. I
Yeah.
know. It's
Because as
phenomenal.
it was that night after he was indicted, he's talking and telling everybody he kept, yeah, and because so and so told him he could, and he has the right, everything that he can present to the jury and say, see, this guy thinks he's Joe Blow.
Anyway, it's very complicated, because I believe also, if I'm again, you really have to research this to get all the bottom line truth. But I think that there are, in charges like this, there are mandatory sentences. She can't just, decide.
He can throw it all out.
You can throw it all out
Yeah,
summarily.
Joe was talking about it. I don't know if it was this morning or the morning before. I didn't hear this morning because I slept in. So it must have been but she can actually just call it. She can go in tomorrow and say, I've decided this is a nothing burger. And they can't do it again because it's called double
Jeopardy. Yeah, but that would
jeopardy.
be right. But that would be assuming she goes through the whole trial without being kicked out. So she's got to
I think
stay
she's
on
going to
track.
get kicked out.
Yeah, well, by the way, that's a distinct possibility, because whenever you see in a person's chart, particularly one of the ways you interpret astrology is you gauge, okay, well, how much is this person smart? She doesn't strike me as very smart. No one that follows this guy.
He has no experience either.
No, and she made moves that even a person with inexperience would have had more common sense than she exhibited. So when you see a lot of challenges in a chart, it's got all kinds of stuff happening, opposite squares. People like that make errors, and they run into a problem, which is what happened last year. That's why, it didn't
Yeah.
work out for her. So yeah, I
Well,
would.
let me tell you guys something, and I just want to make it as clear as I can from my guides, and Andre pretty much will ask you about the chart too. I can tell you, don't ask me how I know, that man is not going to win. Trump
That
is
man-
not going to win as president.
Oh, yeah. Well, that is, yeah. I know. It's
Because as I'm focusing on, oh my God, is he going to be able to get her to drop all chart? And my guides calmed me down and said, you know what, Linda, at the end of the day, he's not going to win. He's not going to be president again.
No. I mean, this is the thing that by the straight logic, it's just that we've built such a disdain for this imbecile, malfeasant, scoundrel that we want him to go down. But he is the easiest person for Biden, because if he runs against Biden, he's pretty much got zero chance. And a lot of these Republicans kind of admit it. They go, this is the problem, that we can't run this way because we got that 30% all excited. But what about, the bigger
He's
numbers?
not adding anymore because most people don't want
No.
this kind of nation where you get rid of the DOJ, where everybody has to think as you. It's same with DeSantis.
Yeah, no, and I mean, they run polls. All the polls are showing, like, is it okay to take nuclear records? No. Most
No.
people say no, including half the Republicans. Well, how's that helpful? It's not. So yeah, I agree with you.
Can I ask you why Biden's numbers are so low? Is that I'm not worried about it, but I just find it interesting.
I think Biden's thing is that he's got I'm going to say between 50 and 55. That's his true number when it comes down to voting. It's just that he is not an exciting person. There are a lot of people that follow politics that are not very smart. They're not, he doesn't talk with enough pizzazz. He doesn't have enough charisma. He's getting too old. Yeah, I understand all that. But politics is like often the lesser of two evils. Many things that happen.
Look at the economy. Look at what's going on now.
Yeah, but that's another thing. Yeah, precisely. I mean, what do you want the guy to do? They keep saying, the economy's falling apart. That's not what the numbers say. Not true.
No, unemployment even is better than it's ever been. Also, I don't think he's even worried about it. I'll be honest with you. I don't see him being worried about it.
He's got more than enough. Like, his planetary support going into this election is
Fantastic.
really good. There's no problem. I mean, it's he's going to be hard to take down. Now, the thing about him though is that he does this thing every time. Sleepy Joe. He's not going to do it. And then how did he do that debt ceiling thing in the background? All I know is that Kevin McCarthy walks away and it's like he's put a spell on them. Oh, well, we decided to do this. And then all the MAGA freaks get really upset because they wanted him, to take Biden down. So remember that being old gives you a lot of experience.
He's had so much experience.
Yeah, they want the young guy. But this is one of the things that happened to Obama when he was president. He was in his 40s. You don't have enough life experience in your 40s to really understand. Like, for instance, when Putin invaded Ukraine, probably an older politician would have said, whoa, hold on a second. No way. This is not allowed. But Obama, that's how he reacted. That's as much as he knew. So age, I think, counts for something.
Right. Have you ever taken a look-see at Gavin Newsom, by the by?
No, not recently. The last time I looked at Gavin Newsom was when he got into that jam. Remember?
Yeah,
he had a problem
going to dinner at the French Laundry.
Yeah, and it didn't look to me. It just looked like a temporary thing with him. But I do think he's a future star for sure. Because
that's what I was feeling. Not right now.
No, not right now. But he's got that. He's got the advantage of he's got the presidential look, and he's a smart guy. He's a great communicator.
He can double talk those idiots trying to talk him down.
Exactly. I mean, obviously, let's face it, right? Isn't it true that the ideal politician would be as if you mixed Joe Biden's experience with Pete Buttigieg's, ability to speak? Now you've got, someone who can.
He was just at Disneyland at the Pride Night. Governor Newsom was.
Really?
He's the first. People have asked me that aren't familiar with him. I remember him as mayor allowing people to get married in San Francisco.
Oh no, totally. He's really progressive.
He's with the times. Yeah.
He also is a major foil for DeSantis, because every time DeSantis does something, he comes back at him with, ads and with things that he says to mock him. And Which, by the way, that's the other thing. It was brought up again today.
What?
The numbers for women's rights are brutal for the Republicans. They're absolutely brutal, and they keep going in and making it worse. They're kind of like Trump. Trump knows he's indicted and he goes on TV. I had a right to keep the records. No, you don't. And stop saying that.
I know. And the presidential, that's when you're president, but you're not president anymore.
Yeah. What I love the most about that indictment, which I think is showing you the future of law enforcement. Jack Smith put in there the videos of Trump going after Hillary, saying we need to have more confidential records, blah blah blah. We need to.
They're going to use that in the trial, by the way.
That's right. They're using it, so they're using his statements against him, just like they're using the tapes where he talked, and the whole idea that every time he goes on TV now and says, "I have a right to the records," they're going to, tell the judge, tell the jury, look, I mean, he keeps telling you that this is legal. It's not. It's totally illegal. You can't do this, right? So.
Yeah, well, let me ask you something. Do you think that, okay, so the woman that with the sexual thing that happened, the lawsuit, she was able to add his statement. Mm-hmm. Did that calm him down a little? Did he realize it's going to cost him? Because you notice he's not talking about it anymore.
No, well, I mean, the thing, you see, this is the thing. I know he doesn't have an astrologer, because an astrologer in this situation would be like a lawyer. He would say, stop talking. This is not helping you. I know talk about other things, but why would you continue to attack her? Then she goes to the judge and you look like a fool. Plus you pay more money. It's not a good idea. Why? Because there are too many planets converging on you. Don't do this. Just stay contained. But he doesn't know how to do it.
No, and listen, years ago, I read a guy that was in the mafia. He actually confessed that he was in the mafia. A lot of people say if you're in the mafia, you don't confess. But somehow or the other, Trump came up when we were talking. His question was something to do with something else. But he said to me, don't ever say that Trump is part of the mob, because the mob can't stand him and he talks too much.
Oh, no, totally. Trump has, he wants to be a mobster, but he doesn't have the skill. Like mob mentality, which by the way is what he really is in a way, because he's mobilized the mob. He's got the sun in a house of groups and clubs and associations. So he gets people to follow him, but it's like a mob, right? We're all gonna, be violent and, enforce our ways on people. But he's not effective, because you're totally right. A true mobster would be like, remember Tony Soprano in that series when he's in the bathroom and he's looking both ways. He's always watching for maybe someone is going to be taping him or listening to him. And Trump does the opposite. He just blabs and says things.
Blabs, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'll be doggone. Okay, so Snool asked, will the time interlude between now and election time be more difficult for Republicans, or will we all suffer, especially those who are speaking truth to power?
I'd say a little bit of both. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it's hard. It's good for MSNBC because they're breaking records with people watching. Because when we get scared, we do go towards media. And everybody has a spin. Everybody has a spin.
I mean, look, isn't it true, though, that we're pretty much in for another really tense, exciting but scary election season? Because the way Republicans are playing in really bad faith, everything they do is twisted, full of falsehoods, lies, whatever. That makes it hard. And the stakes are really high. And, now in a way they're following Trump. They're probably open to cheating. I mean, it's a very tricky situation. But I feel confident because when I add up all the factors, it feels like there are two teams and I like my team better. It's like when you're watching sports and you think, okay, my team is better than the other team. Yeah, we could lose, but I want my team because we have better.
I actually think Trump being on the ticket is better because he's going to wipe him out.
Yeah,
but then wipe him out with the language he speaks.
I mean, who can they put on the ticket? Who can you think of that would go on the ticket to make it easier? Because let's say you take a friend of mine suggested that he thought maybe it would be Pence, because Pence now, you notice he's starting to switch. Like each day he says a little more about, well, we shouldn't be doing this. So pretty soon he's hoping that without calling Trump, a scoundrel and a liar and a crook, then all his followers will drift over to him. But imagine if it was Pence or a Pence-like person, they still have to defend all these indefensible ideas, right? And that doesn't help you. You know, when you get questioned about, well, what do you mean you're doing 6-week abortion bans? What do you mean you have all these states with all these rules and you guys can't, speak out against
You
this?
got a dead fetus in you, too bad.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, in the modern era, women are 54% of the electorate. That should tell
Yeah.
you, be careful what you do there because it could be really costly.
Yeah, a lot of questions about Judge Cannon. I mean, there's only so much you can do on her. But Jack Smith brings in when does Jack Smith bring in the round of indicted charges?
Well, he just did.
Well, when will he get a search warrant for other Trump properties?
Well, that's where I heard today that there was a possibility of involving Bedminster. Like one of the things that, is mind-boggling is how opposite to what is happening, Trump is telling the story. He keeps saying they're being so unfair and this and that. They gave him all kinds of breaks. They compared his case to Reality Winner, that poor woman with one document. They put her in jail for 5 years.
She
No
never saw the
bail.
light of day since she went in there.
Exactly. And with him, they're asking him month after month, please return the documents. Please return. Then he doesn't return. Then we're sending you a subpoena. Obey the subpoena, return. Still doesn't do it. Finally, right? They charged, they had to go in there because they were, worried that, which they were right. They found
Yeah.
nuclear secrets, right? So the thing with Trump is that it's the very opposite because he's telling you that it's unfair, but in reality, he's there's a lot of slack he's getting basically to help him along, and yet at the same time now the charges are very serious because once you bring in these kinds of things, the odds of getting out go dramatically down. That's how I see it.
And he also has to have his attorneys. They were able to pull that thing where the attorneys have testified against him. He was telling them, tell them we don't have any more. Do this, do that.
Yeah, which by the way could be something that Aileen Canon could try, is she could try to throw that out by saying that they pierced the attorney privilege inappropriately. But see, now she's probably running scared because she knows, okay, so if I do this, I mean, this Smith guy seems to be pretty thorough.
He's
He probably
very
knows what he
thorough.
did. It's very unlikely that he would do something that he couldn't appeal and win. And all it takes is one or two, and they'll start saying, wait a second, are you doing this again? Because how many times do we have to tell you that you need to check into your facts? So,
Well, you know what else I got? I got that she's afraid because she's read the indictment and she knows he's guilty of sin. And
well, yeah.
she would be the judge to determine. I'm not seeing her at the end of the day. I'm not seeing her
Finishing?
giving a sentence. I'm seeing somebody else. I see a man in there.
Well, then I'm really happy to go with that. Trust me.
Because,
Yeah.
she may look at this and say, you know what, he's going to be found guilty and I don't want to be part of this. I don't want people knocking on my door.
Yeah, well, I mean, her smart move, if she has any brains at all, is to not even take the case because this
Yeah,
is too
I don't think any
controversial.
of the judges want the case.
No, and back to the thing on Trump, it's amazing to me, beyond amazing, that they know because they heard him say that he had a ultra secret document about war plans for Iraq, and they can't find the document.
I know.
That would be you make a phone call and you say you have 24 hours to return that document, or we're going to go in there and we're going to arrest you and search all your properties with a fine-tooth comb. How is that document still out there?
I know.
I cannot. It's unbelievable the amount of slack they cut this guy, because they're worried about the politics and so forth. Any other person, if that's you, you would have had the SWAT team over all
Yeah.
your properties.
But
saying,
what about Biden?
Yeah, no, what Biden? Yeah, I know. What about Biden? Yeah, what about Hunter Biden? Repeat to these people who was. They keep saying Lindsey Graham. I can't believe that guy goes on TV and he says, "Well, yeah, well, I know that he's done some things, but what about Hillary? In her documents and her emails. Okay, who was running the Justice Department for 4 years? Was it you guys? Why didn't you do that? Why are you bringing it up now?
Yeah.
You had
No,
control.
they
of the
don't want to
whole
hear the truth.
It is so unbelievable. I mean, give me a break. What Hunter Biden? Why didn't he get charged by Bill Barr?
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, exactly. It's a joke.
So Nees wants to know, what is Andre's thoughts about Venus and Leo and retrograde? What does it mean for the collective? Do you see money issues? Do you see gender issues?
Well, Venus in when Venus goes retrograde,
I think my Venus is in Leo.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's That's why didn't you at some point you were doing some comedy? Venus and Leo is good for
Yeah.
that.
I did some stand-up. It was on my bucket list. I
Yeah,
had a great
exactly.
time, but it's very ego-based comedy. Is
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that it's the challenge too of,
yeah, I had a good time.
yeah. So no, okay, so Venus retrograde, I heard a really good astrologer, I think his name is uh, Best, I think, I can't remember, I think he's British, but he studies Venus, uh, ahead of all the other planets. He puts a lot of energy into studying Venus, and he pointed out, which is really correct, when Venus goes retrograde, the collective energy, meaning society, goes into this mode where the consensus, like what we all agree on, gets shaken up and people can start protesting and can start turning against norms. That's what happened during the George Floyd situation. Venus was going retrograde there and people hit the streets because they saw this horrible thing happen and it was very turbulent. So for a period, there is upsetting the consensus, but I don't know at the moment. Uh, I don't know what it would be that it would cause, how it would correlate. Maybe it's something to do with the current politics, or maybe something surfaces, maybe it'll be, I mean, we get now shootings every day. So maybe there's going to be another shooting and then people getting really upset. Something will happen during that period around that. And in a person's chart, wherever the Venus is retrograde in that house, they're going back and reviewing things that they were doing in that area of their chart. And it's good for that. It's like a sort of life review, research what you were doing, figure it out. And then when you come back retrograde again, you're doing it better. It's a little bit like Mercury retrograde. The other thing I notice about Venus retrograde is that if it's connected to something about buying things, and purchasing things,
Yeah.
it's great for finding bargains and things that appear to like someone that is selling you something for $10 and you think, really, this should be worth like $50. Why is this only worth $10? It's got that quality of finding an amazing something during that period, right? So
Right.
those are a few things about that.
So speaking of that, then somebody was asking, will Daniel Petty be found guilty of the subway killings in New York, second degree? I'm feeling that he's going to be found guilty, but I feel a slap on the wrist.
Like he won't get punished that much.
He won't get punished that badly or something, and then that could be the riots in the street.
That's a possibility. Oh yeah, that was the guy. What did he do? Oh, that was that
He
person
put him
that
in a chokehold.
put him in a chokehold. Yeah, that could see that would fit. Yeah, for sure. That would be an example of what could go wrong if they
That's what I was feeling.
if they provide. Yeah, exactly. That's what it would.
Yeah,
But I
you
haven't looked
made
at
an
his chart.
interesting comment to me, and I meant to get back to that. You said that you pretty much feel that Biden will win in 2024 because after that there's some stress going on, and it couldn't be because Biden won. Do you remember saying that maybe we would have
Yeah,
protests?
no. Okay, I think I know what you mean. What I said is that I look for markers that tell me where something is pointing. Like for example, a different astrologer, Patrick Watson, he's talked about firearm legislation with Saturn in Aries, and immediately you think that's where Saturn is going post the election, and then you think, well, how can that be with a Republican government? They're never going to put in firearm legislation. It's got to be a Democratic government, right? But the other logic is when you see kind of edgy energy going into 25, 26, you think, well, that wouldn't be the Democrats getting mad. I mean, the most Democrats do is they maybe march and do a lot of yelling, but they're not going to start talking violence and maybe potentially even engaging in some violence. That's usually Republicans because that's the way they think, right? So that's another sort of marker to me pointing to that kind of result. But we have to live through it, right? Because when all is said and done, the problem with this period we're in, this decade literally, is that it's got that civil war thing, where the planets are.
I know.
We went through it then and it was not easy. The good side won,
It's kind
though.
of going on now with that energy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem, that in a sense supersedes everything.
Okay, Rosanna Dana says, is there another planet besides Saturn that makes your life hard? Because I'm a Virgo with Scorpio rising and Aquarius moon, and this year I've been hit with one thing after another, and it's not letting up.
Well,
Could it be Saturn hitting the sun?
Virgo would be depending on especially if you're in the first 10 days of Virgo, definitely Saturn for sure. But when someone asks, like, which planet can be out to get me, all of them. I mean, quite frankly, even Jupiter can is known to be the benefactor, but that's another one, by the way, in Aileen Canon's chart. Jupiter is opposing her sun, and when Jupiter opposes, a person gets overconfident and they
Okay.
overreach and they overdo things, and then they get in trouble from that. But that would be initially, at least, on the softer side. But nearly any planet, like Uranus, could shock you out of your with some sudden event. Pluto can Pluto can totally destroy something as well. Any planet can do it. But the other thing to mention is that realize that those events are usually the lesser, the low percentage in your life. Most of what happens to you in your life is what you're doing, and it gets channeled through the planets. So then a person will say, well, look, Saturn came in and now I'm being audited by the IRS. So then you ask, well, did you pay your taxes?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
it's not, it's rare that people say, oh, it's all a conspiracy. They're all out to get me. This is not how it works. It's more,
Yeah.
you do something, you get something back. So
Like what's happening with Trump right now, he did it to himself.
yeah, totally.
And you told us way back when, yeah, things slide right off of him, but don't worry, he's got
Yes, yeah,
things
yeah.
that he won't get away with it anymore.
Yeah, the Saturn, as soon as it entered Pisces March 8th, and you could feel it. You could feel like it was like a toboggan ride. Alvin Bragg got in there, and then Eugene Carroll, and now Eugene Carroll is pounding some more, and then Jack
I love
Smith,
it.
and then
I
there's
love it.
Fonnie Willis. Did you hear that Jack Smith, the same day he was in court, his people were working up in DC, working the January 6th. I mean, they're
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to get in there. So,
This is going to be wonderful.
yeah, yeah. And by the way, this guy is such a crook. Don't be surprised if even another thing comes up that is totally different than what we heard so far, and it gets
Yes,
filed on there.
I
Don't be
believe it.
surprised.
I
Yeah.
believe it. So what Kellyanne said, what can Aries expect this year for health and luck? I know you don't really do generals, but how's Aries look?
Well, Aries, I mean, if you're doing general stuff, you would say that Aries, the situation gets much more serious, much more focused and ambitious and directed post the 24 election, because Saturn will be in Aries and so will Neptune. That's a very big cycle. So it would be good for an Aries during these 3 years to begin to examine themselves, so that when they reach that point, they can get to work in a really good way, rather than reaching that point and then realizing, oh yeah, now I have to cut back on things, or then it's a lot harder. So if they
Right.
would start, and the reason is that when Saturn is in the sign before it gets to your sign, in a certain way, you can look at it as a place of retreat and a place of going within and training the spiritual side, so that then when you launch it into action in 2025, it has better grounding, and you're not just starting then, which would be a lot more painful, because Saturn, as you know, you've experienced Saturn, it's not easy, right? When
Oh,
it visits you,
it's
it's
hard.
bad.
But
Yeah,
as you get older, it gets a little easier.
it does a lot. No, a lot easier, not a little
My
easier.
young Saturns were devastating.
Brutal. Yeah, I know, because it's a planet of age. So
Have you taken a look-see at Putin or Zelensky?
I haven't recently, but I know what's going on. Putin, Zelensky, his chart improved. But, Saturn was the planet, really giving him a hard time. In March, the switch is better for him. So, by most accounts, it sounds like things are looking up, even though
Yeah.
it's still really rough. And Putin has got too many alignments that are. Remember, we said this last time. That thing that I keep bringing up, that 150 aspect. When you see it too often in a chart, it's not good, especially if you already hear reports of health issues, which, by the way, I'll repeat this again about Trump. Trump is very much exposed to a health problem during this year and next year. So that's another distinct possibility, that could come up as like it could take him out of the,
Right.
so he can't even run. That's possible based on
Right.
his. I know that he seems like nothing ever affects him, but everything works until it doesn't. I'll just say that.
Right. And he's under so much stress.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So
Um, Jay Jorm said, is there a viable site to see current planet alignments and maybe overlay for a natal chart? Or are such things for purchase only? Do you know of a site?
Well, the site I recommend, if you want a free astrology, the person who's putting it together is kind enough to just set it up as a public service. It's called Astro-Seek. That is the most thorough. It's quite brilliant. He's doing some really, really good measurements, but you have to spend a bit of time, to get familiar. It's a language. You got to recognize the symbols, things like that. And so you can actually draw your chart there. And if you create a username and password, it'll be always there for you to look at.
Right.
You can study it. And then if you want to get into an actual program, but then you're going to have to spend some money, something like Solar Fire or Matrix Windstar or Sirius. The star is called SIRUUS. Those are programs that'll cost you hundreds of dollars. That's if you are more serious, no pun intended, and you're going to put it on your computer and use it to track and learn. And the thing is, most people, though, they go looking for interpretations of things and they read online, blurbs and things like that. It's okay, but you're not
A
going to
lot
learn
of
all the astrology.
information. Yeah.
You got to learn astrology. Astrology, the main tool is your own chart, and you track it. You keep following it, and you keep experiencing the feeling of planetary patterns, because then you realize, oh yeah, astrologers aren't making this up. When Mars is around, I feel more edgy.
Right. Right. There's some good astrologers out there, and Vedic astrology. I think that Hogarth. I said Hogwarts. Hogarth is really good on Vedic, but it's
I haven't
like
met him yet.
tarot readers. Anybody can read cards.
Right.
Cards aren't. You get all these different interpretation. It's the person interpreting it, and there's some people that have a gift. They just have the gift.
It's true.
That they can go flow through it. Some people just really don't get it or dive into it. Like, I think astrology is like that. You gotta know your planets.
You gotta be into it. I mean, I got into this 43 years ago, and I never thought it was work, but I would spend hours and hours, drawing planets, charts, in my own mind, you pretty soon, if you're really into it, you can do charts in your mind, because the wheel is so imprinted in your head. I've done cases where I wake up at night and nothing I try puts me back to sleep. So then I'll start doing calculations in my mind, and a few times I've actually worked something out. I'll go, wow, that's true. And then I wake up and I check it. Yeah, it's true. Something about a complicated harmonic or whatever. But that's how you get better, because then you're really in touch with it, and especially your own. Nothing replaces when you can say, yeah, from here to here, I was experiencing some planet, and you realize, yeah, that's what it is, because I felt those feelings and I was getting those events. And so then it sticks with you, and then you go from there, and you've created a kind of mental encyclopedia of the planets, right?
Right.
And that's how it's really, that's how it really helps.
I'm smelling a real sweet smell. Wonder if somebody's here with us now. Very sweet. Very sweet smell right now. I don't have any plants in here. Interesting. Okay, did you ever take a look-see at Nikki Haley?
I have not, but I need to.
I think it's a nothing burger.
I think it's a nothing burger. Yeah, I believe I think she's I know what it was with her. I remember now. She is a Capricorn and I think she had her Pluto transit already closer to the pandemic, but I'm just watching her do her thing. There's too much. She's trying to have it both ways in all kinds of statements. She'll say, well, Trump I think this is very serious, so serious, but I would pardon him. Well, okay, so that's like great for the MAGA people, I guess, in a way. Statements like that where I think she's trying to have it both ways. And I don't think, by the way, this is the other thing, the Republican Party especially is really unlikely to vote for a woman. They just...
Oh, I know.
They don't do that.
Did you hear about the Baptist Church voting out churches that have women pastors?
Oh, yeah, I read that. Yes.
Talk about back in the 1700s.
Yeah, no, and I think these people, they don't realize that there is a social movement on that level, but I also call it a planetary movement. Once Eris was discovered in 2005 and Pluto was shaken out of the order. Pluto is the ultra masculine energy and Eris is a female goddess. And once that happened, all categories that have been left behind, that's why you've seen women rising, LGBTQ rising, in terms of racial disparities, that's been improving as well. And it's because of that planet, and it's very hard to stop. It just means, it doesn't matter that people like Trump and Boris Epstein, you know, these alpha male wannabe like Steve Bannon, whatever, it's going against them.
It's going against them, you guys. Even you should see all the questions. Go back and look at my post about Aileen. Everybody's asking about her. And the thing is, I don't care what she does. At the end of the day, he's going down.
Yeah, well,
maybe not specifically with her, but he's going. There's so much coming at him. It's like a landslide.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, not to mention. Okay, now imagine this. Suppose she is successful in getting him to the election without getting convicted, and suppose Jack Smith is not able to get him in court before the election, and suppose the same thing with Fani Willis. Okay, and what happens after the election? You know, that's where I think. I have visions when I ponder that. I think Sterling telling Linda that he's going to get on a plane and leave the country.
Yeah,
it's better and better because what does he do then?
Exactly.
I mean, you know, you can get 20, 30 years for a single charge with what he's done with those records. It is really dangerous.
And then when he doesn't win and he knows he's got to go back to court, like Sterling said, yeah. You know, I just never saw him in jail. People are like, what do you mean? But I never saw him going to like a regular jail. He might go into a military or something, or he might not live, but something's going to happen.
Yeah, well, it's not a good setup, and yeah, it just isn't. And the thing is, the switch, because this is the other thing, that switch in 2025 when planets, particularly Saturn and Neptune, they go into Aries, right?
Yeah.
And those years are even worse for him because those years, as Saturn is gaining entry into Aries and Neptune slowly trailing it behind, that triggers that Access Hollywood T-square of his, which is the one he hates the most, and it's in his legal house. This is not going anywhere good. I'm telling you, you know, it's not going anywhere good.
Okay, last question. This is from Love Above One Source. Oh, I like that. Thank you, guys. What's the significance of all these planets smooshed into Taurus? What's going on?
Planets smooshed into Taurus?
Does that make sense to you?
Well, Jupiter's there, Uranus is there. What else? I don't think there's anything else. Is there something else in Taurus? I don't think there is.
Okay.
Like how many planets do you need to get a smoosh? Is that
I don't know.
I guess maybe she's thinking of, it could be that the nodes are in Taurus too. And well, today the moon was in Taurus, but that's leaving already. The only thing would be planets in Taurus. First of all, Taurus is a very practical material sign.
Right.
And depending on where it is in your chart, that's the key, is you have to discover what that is. If it's a practical earth house, you think of it as improving your prosperity, bringing in better, you know, conditions for that. But it could be in your health area or it could be in your family area. So you have to get that straight to see what the Jupiter is doing, right? That's the logic. Or rather, well, Jupiter and the Uranus, because they're the Taurus planet.
I doubt if you looked at Walt Nalta. Probably didn't look. Maybe next Thursday.
No, because I did look him up. It's just that he's one of those where it says, you look him up, it doesn't even give his birth date. It just says, Walt Nauta, born in whatever. It's like Jack Smith, for the longest time, it said, Jack Smith, born in 1968 or 1969. Nobody,
now you just finally got
now you've got something, so that was the logic.
Well, my friend, I'll see you next Thursday, and you know there'll be more gossip.
Oh, yeah, guaranteed.
We're going. It's who knows what we're dealing with this time next Thursday.
Excellent. Yeah, look forward to it. All right.
All right, my
Nice
friend.
weekend, everybody.
Bye, you guys.